Hello and welcome to Retro Vehicles and Machinery. My name's Richard. This week I'm looking at a Jaguar XJS convertible. I've done a little bit of work on this car in the past. It's a 3.6 straight 6 engine and it's a 5-speed manual gearbox, which is pretty rare in itself. I think she's British Racing Green, the chrome wheels and chrome trim. It's in for some MOT repair work and an MOT obviously. It's a 1985. It's tidy. It's really clean and tidy. It's got the cream leather interior with the green piping. I've just warmed it through this morning. I've got to, on the list of MOT repairs with it, I need to sort the exhaust manifold gaskets out because they're blowing and the downpipe is cracked and split. So I'm going to have a look at that. I'm just going to put it in the workshop and then we'll go from there. So I've managed to undo the heat shield that goes over the two manifolds and then covered a horrible mess of what looks to be exhaust paste smeared everywhere. So we have an issue down on the bottom of the downpipe. You might not be able to see just down there, you see where it's black. It's actually cracked. Now I can't get a downpipe for this car for love nor money. There's lots available for the 4 litre and one's model, the later model with cats, but not for the 3.6. But what I have been able to get is a pair of manifold gaskets and a pair of gaskets that go between the manifold and the downpipe. So hopefully we can strip the manifolds off, do the manifold gaskets, strip the downpipe off. I can weld and repair the crack that the downpipe has and then put it all back together with some new gaskets and see how she goes from there. I mean, it's going to be better than it was. It's chuffing away like a good one at the moment. We have various oil leaks on this particular model. I cleaned all this off with brake cleaner the other day to see if I could see where it was coming from. It's very wet down the base of the distributor, but I think it's coming out slightly higher, possibly on this little bit here on the engine. Yeah, I would say it's coming from there. And it's also leaking oil out from the oil cooler pipes that come out by the filter on the other side of the engine. So I'm going to pull that apart after I've got this off and have a look to see if I can just change O-rings on it, because it looks like it has 2 O-rings. Again, I can't get any parts. There's one hose that it lists on a classic Jaguar website, but yeah, I'm struggling to get odd bits and pieces for this car, but we'll see if I can repair it. And then I've got it booked in for an MOT next week. Hopefully it will go through. I mean, last year for the MOT I did subframe mounts. They were fun. And I did a whole load of wiring because horn didn't work and main beam didn't work, but it just turned out it was the old Lucas relays just needed cleaning up. I got it all back to life again. So yeah, it's generally it's not rotten or anything. It's had a few bits of welding done in the past, as any car from the 80s has, but generally she's pretty good. And I'll see if I can get these manifolds loose. So I've got my wire wheel on a drill. I'm just going to clean up the threads a bit. Clean some of the exhaust paste off that seems to be everywhere. At least this with this only having the 6-cylinder engine, and you can actually get to stuff. The chap that owns this also has a V12, and that one is very much full under the bonnet. I certainly wouldn't want to have the exhaust manifolds off that. This one's not so bad. I can live with this. I might have to go up and loosen the downpipe bolts. What I'll do is, now I've wire brushed everything, I've got some PB blaster on got on some of the bolts here and the nuts. soak in a minute. See what we can get done. As I say, the heat shield came undone straight away. No bolts were seized on that. I was quite shocked. I was anticipating a right barrel of laughs undoing all that lot. But no, it came undone. There's the offending items there we need to undo. I'll try and get some sockets on there. Yeah, this downpipe does look a bit dodgy, but we'll see what we can do. Couldn't get an olive. Mind you, it just looks like it's a sort of spherical joint there. We'll undo that bolt there. And as for oil leaks, I'll have a look around here. Yeah, it's coming out the cooler hoses on the bottom of the filter there. I did clean it all off with brake cleaner. But I'll have to drop that block down and see what O-rings they've got. I'm going to give it a service whilst it's here, because it probably hasn't had one for a little while. It's very oily under it, it's not going to go rusty anyway. So yeah, there's the subframe mounts I changed last time. Put a pair of those, and I think I did something with the brakes, maybe did brake calipers, maybe. Sort of ringing a bell now I'm under here again. Generally she's pretty sound. We'll undo that and see what we can get off. Not the greatest camera angle in the world there. Try and get up on these manifolded downpipe joints. See if we can crack them loose. Ooh. There's one done. UNF. He's undone. Cylinders 1, 2 and 3. Big socket on it. Very tight. Put a heat on that one, see if that'll help release it. Myself a plumber's lamp. Try and get a bit of heat. It's that manifold bolt. Generally find if you can get a bit of heat into it, it will come loose. It doesn't have to be oxyacetylene getting it glowing red, although that does help a lot. Obviously I'm being careful, there's nothing in the way that can set on fire. That 30 seconds of heat or so. He's come undone. That'd be very hot. Pick that up. Right, downpipe wise, she is off. Add that on the list of stuff. I need to loosen that collar if I can. I'm going to leave that. Downpipe anyway. Should. Oh god, down comes a load of shit. She's off at long last. I've got 2 new olive joints for those. I'm hoping I can weld this patch up here where it's blowing, it's chuffing out of there. I can't get a replacement. Right, well we can see the manifolds now. I'll have a look at putting some penetrating oil on those lower nuts if I can. Wire brush first. Again, they don't look too bad. Give her a whirl, see what we can get undone. So I'm just taking the other bolts out of the manifold here. The lower bolt, I managed to get the lower bolt out on the rear manifold from underneath, but the front manifold I couldn't get to it. So, to be fair, it's a lot easier to undo from under here rather than underneath anyway. So literally all the bolts have come undone. And that one you just heard creaking then, that's going to be the tightest one. That one was a little bit tight on that downpipe. This one is tight here. Oh my goodness me, look at all that bloody exhaust sealing paste in there. Ridiculous. Oh dear, someone's just... Yeah, the gasket's completely gone around cylinder 3 there. It's just disappeared, and someone's either not been able to get a gasket, or they've just thought pasting it was a good idea. Yeah, that was chuffing all around there. Oh, the gasket's remains of it's here, so that's done. See if I can get this front manifold off. I might have to put a bit of heat on that one bolt that's creaking. He's coming. Well, I think I was a bit jammy there, but they all came undone. I thought I could be in for a whole world of I brought the stud out. That's okay, we can work with that. I thought I was going to be in for a hellish job getting those manifolds off. Surprised me. Paste on that one as well. Oh goodness me. I filled, just used a whole blooming tube of exhaust paste on that. Oh, and you can see the gasket on this cylinder here was failing and chuffing around the edges. Oh, it's paper thin, that one, it's all split. That's a nice looking gasket. One seems to be a little bit longer, just on this bottom here. That's cool, I've got a pair. So I've got my manifolds off, just cleaning them up a little bit. They're pretty horrible looking. Now I've just got this old wood saw to show and a lamp set up there, because I thought I'd try find a straight edges close. Now there's loads of gap between the manifold and the saws. They're typically not working there. So you can see out of plumb that manifold is. So the same with the other side. I know it's only a wood saw I'm using, but it is generally a straight edge. And you can see the light shining through there. So these manifolds are not in great shape. So what I'm going to do is have a chat to my machine shop that does my cylinder head skimming and bits and pieces for engines, and see if I can take these two down to him, see if he can put them on his planer so that he can give them a new lease of life. Because it'd be a shame to have to bin them, buy new ones. I don't even know if new ones are available. Judging by the fact the downpipe isn't available, I doubt a pair of new manifolds is going to be. So just pulling the oil cooler pipes off this Jaguar up there, let me go on focus. I've pulled one pipe down and had a look at it, and this was the O-ring I've pulled from it, and it is in fact broken, and it is absolutely rock hard. So that's never well, it's not in great shape. So I'm gonna have a look through my O-ring, see what I've got to replace that with, but that's a good sign as to what the oil leak is anyway. I have ordered an oil filter for it. I've spoken to my machine shop about the manifolds, the cast manifolds, and unfortunately he says he has absolutely struggled with these before to get them to clamp down on the planing table. So I've just run the air descaler over them to loosen up any of the bits of rusty cast on them. I'm going to have a go with a belt sander and see if I can put a new, slightly more level face on these manifolds. So the gaskets have a bit of thickness to them, so they should pinch up all right. I would imagine this was why somebody used half a tube of exhaust stop leak or exhaust paste or whatever on them, because they're out of level. But yeah, he said he's had ever such a problem with them before. So yeah, I'll let you know what's going on with those. I'll see what O-rings we've got. That's the other O-ring out of the oil cooler, and it is also split. They're both rock hard, no give in them at all. What is good is I have this O-ring kit here, and these O-rings are the perfect size. And they're nice and soft and supple. So I've changed one on that hose just there, put the new one in. So he's ready to go. I've put some brake cleaner up around the oil cooler outlets there from the oil filter housing. Everything is a bit grotty under here. And I'm going to put the new O-ring on that pipe there that's trickling oil out. So that other O-ring has now been changed and on there, which is cool. I'm going to try and fit those pipes back up. It's a bit awkward for where to hang the light on this thing. So that's the new O-rings in and the two oil cooler pipes back on, which is cool. I'm happy with that. Had a little look around. I've ordered oil filter, so that'll come. I've got to do a few other bits and pieces. Have a look at this side up here. Is looking okay. It's weeping oil out the back of the rocker cover up there by the look of it. It's all quite oily. Yeah, that's one of the oil leaks stopped for today. I managed to fit those new O-rings I had on the pipes and get the pipes back in and put the little clamp on, which was good. So yeah, it's looking all right. So I bought myself a new toy. I bought myself a belt sander. It's a Makita belt sander with a 4-inch by 11-inch belt area on it. And I'm going to try and resurface this face on the exhaust manifold for the Jag. So I'll get some goggles and ear defenders on. I've read a few things about how to do it, and it seems to be a belt sander is the best way to give it a flat surface again. So I'll get some goggles and stuff on, and then we'll see if it works. That already is working ever so well. And from what I read, about 5 minutes worth of sanding will give you a nice flat edge. I am finding it's got a high spot in this corner here and this corner here. So obviously where the manifolds heated and expanded and contracted over the years, it's gone like a banana, which is probably why it was blowing so badly. As you can see, it's really starting to work well on the face. I will give it another go and see if I can just finish up this area a little bit further. But already that's such a better facing for the exhaust manifold. So I put the belt sander on it for another couple of minutes. that to me is cleaned up, I think, as best as I'm going to get it. It's a little bit pitted around there, but it's brought the high down to a level on that corner there and this top corner here. I think with the manifold gasket on there, that should sit reasonably flush against the head. It's looking a million times better. I have put my saw across it. This is about the straightest edge I have, and it seems to be nice and flat, so I'm happy with that. I'm willing to give it a go anyway. It's certainly going to give a new face for that to mate to. So I'm just running a dye down the threads just to make sure that the threads are clean. It's part of a thread cleaning kit I've had, well, many years. One happens to be a coarse thread and the other ones are fine, so someone's obviously put studs in this in the past. The fine one is a little bit bent, but I've got a dye that will run down the thread there, so we'll see how well it runs up and down. That one's fine, the top one's good. Might as well try and repurpose this manifold as best as possible. I put the little gasket on it, it all fits nicely. So I'm reasonably happy with that it will go. I think this one's just got a bit of swarf from the brass exhaust nut on it. That's the main issue. So I've just put a bit of like maintenance spray on the threads just to give it a bit of lubrication. And it helps keep the threads clean as the dye is running up and down. At least that way that will ensure that my threads are nice when I go to bolt the downpipes back on. I've also used a wire wheel in a drill and cleaned out where the new gasket goes inside of here. Can't really see, but basically I took a drill with a wire wheel in it and just pushed it in lightly, and that's left it really nice inside of there, and my new olive goes straight in, so I'm not going to have any issues with that, I don't think. Obviously when the downpipe goes up, I think the downpipe goes slightly over or into there and then it crushes it up, but with the threads good, the gasket area clean and the mating area sorted, I think this manifold's ready to go. I'll have a look at doing the other side. So this here is my other manifold, and this one was very warped like a banana. This has taken a lot. I've been on this for about an hour, I reckon. I've gently gone over and over and over with the belt sander, and it showed me two very high spots. So one was here and the other was here. I've had to resort to putting the angle grinder with a flat wheel in to bring some material down, and then I've gone over it with a file over and over again to find the high spots, and then put the belt sander on it again and just gently backwards and forwards trying to keep it flat. Every couple of goes check with the straight edge there on the saw blade, but that is about the best I think I'm going to get this one. It's a million times better than it was. And as I say, my manifold gaskets do have a bit of thickness to them, so I don't know if you can see there, but he should go on and hopefully sit quite square on the head there now. That should pull up. I put a tap through the threads here just to clean them out. They're a UNF thread I think, and I put my wire wheel up in the manifold exit here so that my new olive will sit nicely. But yeah, this one's been a bit of a struggle, this one. I've spent a lot of time on it just trying to get it smooth, get it flat again, but I think I'm there. Should be a million times better anyway. Right, let's see if we can get them fitted. So I cleaned the downpipe up, cleaned the flanges up that the olives go on, cleaned this one, that's a spherical ball on the rest of the exhaust system, ground out where the hole is where it was chuffing on the downpipe, so I'm just going to put some weld in there and and weld all the cracks up. And the cooker comes out of the way. Oh, good. Weld some of these cracks up in the bottom section here. Come on, good break. Take that away, darling. Come on, no, good. Take it away. It's me, dog. That, I think, is going to fix that. Oh, unfortunately, the camera's completely missed. But yeah, I've welded, I've filleted the cracks out with the grinder. Come away from that, Cooks, that's hot. And I've welded all the cracks up on the bottom side of it and on the top side. So that will hopefully, as I say, I can't get this downpipe for love nor money. You can get a couple of second-hand ones, and I've done the same on that. But you don't know, am I buying exactly the same as what I've got? At least with what I've got, it all came undone, and that should see another couple of years service. I was looking through, the best bit I could find that would replace all of this lot was a stainless manifold, a 6-brancher that goes up to the original exhaust system, but that was over £1,000, so eventually it will come down to needing that sort of part, I think. But for the time being, that should do it another couple of years service anyway. And see if we can get it fitted back on. Right, so I've just offered the exhaust manifold gaskets up, and they fit over the studs nicely. I've put my 2 studs back in that I've cleaned up, so they're looking alright, and I've got the bolt ready for this end one up here. I am going to put a thin film of exhaust paste on the gaskets, just to sandwich up between the gasket and the face of the head, and then the face of the manifold as well. But I'm not going to use daubs and daubs and daubs of it like it had on it. So here we go. I've just smeared a film of exhaust paste around the gasket faces. Just help sort out any little imperfection that the manifold might have. Right. So I've done the same with my face of the manifold here. Put some exhaust paste on it. Again, just a thin smearing around the ports. I'm replacing the old nuts that it had holding it on. It had a flat washer, a spring washer, and then just a plain nut holding the manifolds on. I'm replacing them with flange nuts. These are brilliant little nuts with a self locking washer as part of the nut. So they're really handy for this application. So they've got like a serrated edge. I have ran my tap and die through all of the threads on the studs and things to make sure they all go together, and they do. it's quite a poor design, only having 4 attachments for the manifolds. It does give you error where the manifold can warp when it gets hot and cold all the time, so that's not great. So you always want to try and pull the manifold up evenly, so I'm just going to start by nipping each of the nuts just up so they just pull a slight bit of torque onto the manifold, and then we'll evenly torque them up. So it pays to keep these old Autodata books knocking about, because it's got the Jaguar XJS 3.6, 83 to 90, yep, third one along. Where are we looking? Exhaust manifold to cylinder head, 23 to 27 newtons. That's cool. So I'll go and grab a torque wrench and just make sure that's torqued to spec. Oh, I've got my torque wrench wound up. I tried to keep a wealth of these old Haynes manuals and workshop manuals on the shelf. I have got a few Jaguar ones. I found a Series 3 XJ6 book, and that's an original Jaguar workshop manual, and then I've found a Haynes manual for I think it's an XJ40. But yeah, that manifold is now on and torqued to spec. So I'm happy with that. We'll have a look at putting this one on next. That's that one with a bit of paste on it. You can go in. Put a bit on the manifold as well. Right, so I've done the other manifold. We'll slide him down and fit him up as well. So there's only one that didn't have a stud, it had a bolt. So I put a flat washer and a spring washer on it, so that should hold okay. So I'll just nip all these up loosely. I'm happy with that, that's looking good. Both manifolds are on. Paste can go off for a bit whilst I'm sorting out the downpipes and bolting them up. That's looking a lot better. 2 fitted manifolds are on and we're up in the air. I'm going to have a look at putting the olives in and the downpipe back on. I'm just going to use a little bit of the exhaust joining paste around the downpipe sections where the olives go, just to aid with them sealing up, as it is an old downpipe, not a new one. With the paste around these olives as well, where they go in, should just help seal up any little bits of areas where they might leak. So it's right to use this paste on a car without cats from the manifold back. If you've got catalytic converters on it, you can only really use this paste after the cats, because if it goes into the cat, it can burn the cat out and cause a blockage and melt the cat. So you don't really want to be doing that. I've had to use some longer bolts on the front manifold, because these shorter ones here that were in it don't actually go through. Now there's a new olive in, they don't go through all the way and into the thread. So luckily I keep an odd amount of UNF and UNC bolts in, and I found two that fit, longer bolts that fit, so that's cool. Got a couple of spring washers on them just to help them go up and not rattle loose, and they're both going in. It's worth running the tap through those threads in the manifold because they're just going in nicely now. Those are pulled up nice and tight now, so that's on. I did put a film of exhaust paste on this spherical joint. Dogs are intrigued as to what I'm doing today. We'll see if I can get the rest of the system hooked back up. I'll just push the joint together and put the clamp on. I'll stick the bolt through quickly and tighten that one up. So that's that joiner on. I'll lower it down and see if she'll start up and put an engine flush in it to have a look at changing the oil. That already sounds a million times better. Another oil leak. As I thought, looks like it's coming out this tensioner. To investigate that further. So I have fixed the oil leak that was coming out the cooler pipe with those two O-rings. That's bone dry now, which is good. I'm going to have to look on the other side. I think that possibly is a cam chain tensioner. I don't know the bolts in there. It looks almost like it could be a blank for an old school petrol pump, but I'll have a look online, see what I can find out, if there is a gasket or an O-ring that goes in there before I undo it anyway. The oil drained out a bit, now she's up to temperature. Black for a petrol engine. So from what I've read, that oil leak on the other side by the distributor is the cam chain tensioner. The earlier ones were two-piece runnings and the later ones were a single-piece unit that didn't leak. So we'll have to do a bit more research into it. Apparently there's just two O-rings on it and they cause the leak. It's not leaking around the mating surface where it bolts to the cylinder head. It seems to be leaking through the centre pin. Now that it's warmed through on tick over and idle, it's not leaking, but as soon as you hold some revs on it, I suppose it ups the oil pressure, it just pumps a little bit out, so I'm going to have to look at that as well. But certainly we've fixed the oil cooler leak, so that's one oil leak sorted. So I've got a brand new Bosch oil filter to go on it, which I sourced from my local motor factors. That's about the one part I could source, only because I went to them with a number. I've just put some oil on it, on the seal there, and we'll put that on, get that fitted up. So sump plug's back in. I've used a new sump plug washer on it. I've got some oil going into it now. This little jug does 2 litres at a time. That's had 6 litres in it now, and it's on the mark, well, it's midway on the dipstick, so I'm going to run it and get the oil cap back on. It's not off a tractor, that is. So it's on the dipstick there. It's midway. Very clean, obviously fresh oil. Difficult to see on the dipstick sometimes. We just run that up, get oil pressure, and then dip her again. So it's my upper timing chain tensioner on the Jaguar that's leaking, and from the, I think it's this little fella here, because that's where oil's coming through. It's not coming around the outside of here, so I've managed to remove that little piece. And sure enough, both O-rings were rock solid, and through my O-ring kit I've found 2 that fit perfectly. So I'll have a look at fitting it back in and running it up and see how we're doing leak wise. So there's not a whole lot of room down here. Hopefully I can hook it back in somehow. I'm just using the bolt on the bracket to pull that in. It's a funny little thing, this. You can see why the later one was designed as a one-piece unit that didn't have this little bracket that holds the centre in. Well, that's in. Is it going to be any better? Who knows? That'd be amazing if that has sorted that out. That was peeing out oil before. We'll give it a road test and see. That's always a good sign. It's not pouring oil out, so we can only hope that that's fixed that. Well, I've done my road test. Unfortunately the camera was not going to stay in the dash and I didn't want to fiddle with it and keep trying to wedge it up. So it's sounding sweet, it's running mint. It's not blowing and chuffing out the exhaust manifolds anymore, which is brilliant. It pulls well for a 3.6, she's alright. It's quite nice it being manual, it's quite punchy. Beautiful car, wafting around in. I'd imagine when it's nice and hot summer's day, having the roof off it be ideal. But yeah, that's a summary of this Jag, all the work I've done on it so far. I've got MOT with it next week, so we'll see if she passes. Hopefully she will. Done 144,000 miles there. She's sweet.